This is not a motivation video. It is a direct attack on the part of you that still believes you are weak. In 23 minutes, you will no longer be the same person.
Because today, we will dissect your submission, expose the system that programmed you to stay silent, and awaken the strength you have hidden your entire life. You think you are tired because of lack of rest, but that is not it. You are tired of living like someone who apologizes for existing. Today, Nietzsche will be your mirror, and the reflection will not be pretty, but it will be true. Because this video was not made for the comfortable, the dependent, the fragile. It was made for those who are ready to stop being domesticated, for those who are tired of softening their own truth to be tolerated. You will understand why your weakness is not a flaw. It is a lie, a program, a sophisticated form of emotional slavery taught as a virtue. And when all of this falls apart, there will not remain a better version of you, but rather the true one. The one you always were before fear. If topics like psychology, philosophy, and the darkness of the human soul interest you, subscribe now to the channel. You grew up believing you were weak, that your hesitation was a personality trait, that your passivity was maturity, that your fear of confrontation was humility. But what nobody told you is that this was never you. It was only what was left after they broke your instinct. School called your obedience exemplary behavior. Your family called your submission education. And society with a smile called your self-annihilation kindness. Gradually, you not only believed these lies, you began to call them I. You confused weakness with morality. You were taught to believe that pleasing is virtue, that being passive is a sign of wisdom, that yielding is nobler than asserting yourself. But Nietzsche would say this is not kindness, it is self-abandonment. You stopped living what you felt to live, what was expected of you. And the price of this is silent but devastating. A spineless existence and I shaped by fear of displeasing. You became a reflection of others, a socially acceptable caricature of your forgotten essence. Weakness is not crying. Weakness is not knowing how to say no. Weakness is accepting what eats you away just to avoid conflict. It is being silent when instinct screams. It is apologizing for being intense, for being direct, for not fitting the mold. And do you know the worst? You started to be proud of this. You started to think it is beautiful to be light, to be peaceful, to be calm, when in truth you were only being anesthetized. A domesticated lion is not a pet. It is a living tragedy. You were trained to distrust your own strength. Every time you tried to impose yourself, they told you it was rudeness. When you spoke clearly, they said it was arrogance. When you showed ambition, they said it was selfishness. And so you began to withdraw, prune yourself, hide your most authentic impulses in the name of shallow, conditional, disposable acceptance. And what was left? A functional but empty persona, an adapted but hollow character. Nietzsche saw this farce as the death of the human spirit. For him, the true I is born from the tension between what you feel and what the world demands of you. And whoever always gives in never is born. That is why he said, the individual has always had to struggle, not to be overwhelmed by the tribe. Because the tribe does not want you to be strong. It wants you to be convenient. The tribe wants you to remain confused. To keep editing your words, silencing your truths, disguising your presence. The lie they called you is comfortable, but it charges. It charges with resentment, with that tiredness that does not come from the body, but from the unlived soul, with that emptiness that not even distraction fills. True pain does not come from struggle, it comes from denial of struggle. It comes from knowing deep down that you betrayed yourself, that you shaped yourself to be accepted, and even so you kept feeling invisible. Because you will only be truly seen when you are truly you. And who are you truly? That is the terror. Most people will never know, because they build their entire lives based on the reflection of what others approve. They spend decades reinforcing a mask and then call that identity. And then when someone confronts them, like, now they prefer to attack or flee, because admitting you are a character hurts. But Nietzsche did not come to comfort. He came to break you. Not to destroy you, but to free what is beneath. The truth is simple but brutal. You are not weak, you are domesticated. You are not fearful, you are anesthetized. You are not indecisive, you are conditioned. And perhaps for the first time in your life, you are beginning to feel the presence of what has always been buried, a vital, wild, indomitable impulse, the you that existed before fear. And it is this you that Nietzsche would respect, not the kindest, not the most correct, but the most real, the most dangerous, the most alive. What part of your true self have you been hiding the longest, and why? Share your answer in the comments below. You think you are free, but you wake up every day following a routine you did not choose. You wake up tired, grab your phone, consume noise, swallow coffee, enter transportation, sit at the desk, follow orders, go back home. Distract yourself until you fall asleep. Repeat. You call this life, but it is training. A silent theater where you play a role you never wrote. The system does not want you to awaken. It wants you to function, to be productive, but not conscious. To obey, but believe you are deciding. To be useful and disposable. Since childhood, you were taught to raise your hand to ask permission. To answer questions, but never to ask them. To memorize ready-made truths, but never to doubt them. This was not education. It was conditioning. A behavioral engineering designed to produce docile gears. Nietzsche saw this with brutal clarity. He saw school, religion, herd morality as subtle domestication mechanisms and mocked them. Because for him, the true human spirit is untamable, but everything around tried to tame it since the first cry. Culture taught you to confuse comfort with happiness. It trained you to seek security, stability, predictability, but this has a cost, your power. Because every time you choose comfort instead of challenge, you weaken your own impulse to grow. And the world knows this. That is why it feeds you distractions, empty entertainment, easy rewards, dopamine and digital pills, all to keep you calm, tame, manageable, while the strength living inside you rots in silence. Even those who say they love you participate in this process. Unconsciously, they praise you when you adapt, criticize you when you assert yourself, applaud your kindness, but fear your firmness, reward your restraint, but reject your intensity. Not because they wish you harm, but because they feel threatened by your awakening. Because if you change, they will be forced to face how asleep they still are. So they prefer you remain the same, even if it costs your soul. Nietzsche called this slave morality, a system of values created by the weak to keep the strong under control. In it, everything vibrant, bold, affirmative is considered sin, and everything submissive, guilty, resentful is elevated as virtue. You live inside this code without realizing it. And worse, you repeat these ideas as if they were yours, but they are not. They were programmed into you. You were shaped to obey, not to create, to please, not to express, to ask for permission instead of owning your destiny. The system does not dominate you by force. It dominates you by guilt. It convinces you that desiring is wrong, that feeling anger is ugly, that having ambition is something evil people do. And so you mutilate yourself internally to fit this sacred mold of the good person. But Nietzsche shouts through the centuries, everything done out of obligation is poison to the spirit. You were not born to fit in. You were born to expand. And any system that demands internal amputations is not a home. It is a prison. Now you begin to perceive. The weight you carry is not yours. It is imposed. This feeling of insufficiency, of constant insecurity, was planted so that you never feel ready enough to break free. Because if you wake up, if you align yourself, if you stop asking for permission, you become dangerous. Not violent, but incorruptible. And the system does not know how to deal with people like that. People who do not bow for salary, status, approval. People who look in the eyes and say, I know who I am. That is why Nietzsche did not want to reform the world. He wanted to create another kind of human being. One who lives beyond good and evil, beyond conventions, masks, orders. One who has the courage to be what they are even if alone, rejected, condemned. Because in the end, the system does not fear weapons. It fears consciousness. It fears the one who ceased to be a piece and became origin. And this, perhaps for the first time, is awakening inside you. You do not become weak suddenly. Weakness does not arrive like an explosion. It seeps in slowly disguised as habit. It lives in small concessions, automatic gestures, unquestioned thoughts. It is there every morning when you wake up, and even before taking a deep breath, you already open your phone to consume other people's lives. It is there when you swallow opinions to avoid conflict, when you pretend everything is fine to avoid the discomfort of telling the truth. Weakness is habit, routine. It is what you repeat until you forget you are betraying yourself. Nietzsche said that he who cannot obey himself will be commanded by others. But how will you obey yourself if you do not even know who you are in the morning? You wake up and immediately react. React to notifications. React to stimuli. React to the anxiety you inherited from the world. But you create nothing. You direct nothing. You start the day as a servant and end it as a hostage. And as long as this repeats, you will never be master of yourself. The first battlefield of your strength is the moment your eyes open. Every habit you allow either builds or destroys a part of your sovereignty. When you say, "I will change," but continue doing the same things, you reinforce a lie, that your will has no weight. This silently crushes your confidence. With every unkept promise, you move further from the idea that you can trust yourself. And when you do not trust yourself, the whole world senses it. That is why they underestimate you. That is why they do not listen to you, because weakness has a smell, and it starts in your schedule. Language also gives you away. Weakness is in the words you choose. In the maybe you let slip when you wanted to say no. In the sorry that escapes when you just existed. In the I think that sabotages a truth you already know. You want to sound polite but come off insecure. Want to sound flexible but sound fragile. You prune your clarity to avoid confrontation, but all this generates is invisibility. Nietzsche did not whisper. He wrote with a knife, because he knew clarity is strength, ambiguity is submission. Your posture is another mirror. Slumped shoulders, shallow breathing, lowered gaze. You do not need to say anything. The body is already declaring war against yourself. You walk as if apologizing for taking up space. Sit as if begging not to be noticed. But Nietzsche saw the body as an expression of the soul, and when your soul is dominated, your body becomes a reflection of surrender. Notice this. The strong do not ask permission with their shoulders. They announce presence with their spine. You think you procrastinate because you are lazy, but it is not laziness. It is unconscious loyalty to a version of yourself that should have died long ago. It is a silent sabotage you learn not to disturb. At some point in the past, you associated greatness with pain, ambition with abandonment, strength with loneliness. So you began to avoid everything that would make you grow. You prefer to postpone, hesitate, avoid. But this does not protect you. It dissolves you. What you call comfort is just fear disguised as routine. Nietzsche saw discipline not as rigidity, but as personal power. He did not want you to become a productive robot. He wanted you to become a conscious warrior, someone who transforms repetition into direction, who wakes up for themselves before opening to the world, who builds rituals as fortresses, not prisons. Because the right habit does not imprison you, it frees you. It reminds you every day that you have a choice, that you are not condemned to repeat weakness. You can replace it. True transformation does not start with a scream. It starts with silence. With a morning when, for the first time, you do not pick up the phone. With a no, you say without explaining. With a mirror you face without looking away. The revolution of your strength starts in the details. Because the self Nietzsche believed in was not made of theories. It was made of attitudes. And each of them, no matter how small, either strengthens you or erases you. The choice is yours, and it repeats tomorrow. You were trained to belong. From your earliest years, you learned to raise your hand to speak, to ask permission to act, to shape the tone of your voice, the way your body moves, even your thoughts to be accepted. School taught you to follow rules without questioning. Culture conditioned you to seek approval as if it were oxygen. And you believed that being loved was the same as being tolerated. But the brutal truth is, you need to be willing to be rejected to be free. And no one warns you how much that will hurt. Nietzsche knew authenticity has a price. He wrote, "The individual has always had to struggle not to be overwhelmed by the tribe." What did he mean? That being yourself is an act of war. Because the world does not want your freedom, it wants your obedience. And the closer you get to your truth, the more the collective lie is disturbed. You begin to disturb. Your presence silences those who live disguised. Your clarity exposes the comfort zones of those who never dared to leave the ground. You begin to lose friends, distance colleagues, disappoint family, because the strong version of you is not convenient. It does not ask permission. It does not fit in. It does not bow its head to keep the atmosphere light. And this scares, because they knew the domesticated you, not the untamable. And when you start breaking patterns, speaking your mind, refusing what silences you, they say you changed. But the truth is, you returned to who you were before being trained to please. The price of this is solitude. Not the momentary kind solved with company, but existential solitude. The emptiness that arises when you realize everything holding you back was only fear of being alone. Nietzsche did not romanticize this. He knew freedom was walking without a tribe, without a crowd, without applause. He said those who seek to be the exception must be ready to walk in the desert, and the desert is silent. It is cold, it is long, but it is there you find yourself, not in the voices that soften you. This solitude is a crossing, a purification. In it you free yourself from the need to be understood, from the compulsion to be validated, from the illusion that you need acceptance to exist. And it is at this exact point true freedom begins, when you prefer your peace to the company of those who only tolerate you conditionally, when you no longer adapt to fit in, when you no longer bleed to maintain artificial connections, when you prefer to walk alone rather than walk small, because the free man is not the one surrounded. He's the one who is whole. He may be among many, but belongs only to himself. He knows the price of truth is silence. The cost of greatness is isolation, and he accepts, because he understands every step toward authenticity pushes the weak away, but attracts what is real. Freedom frightens crowds, but opens space for solid, rare, non-negotiable bonds. You will not be loved by everyone, but you will be loved by those who recognize your truth. Nietzsche saw this as the secret glory of the strong soul. It does not need an audience. It does not negotiate its essence for company. It is enough for itself. It builds its own table, and if no one comes, that is fine. More space, more clarity, more sovereignty, because in the end, the solitude that comes from truth is much nobler than the company that demands lies. And slowly you begin to feel being alone was never the problem. The problem was losing your own instincts just to be accepted. So now you decide, keep pleasing to belong, or free yourself to exist. Keep bowed to be tolerated, or walk upright, even if in silence. Nietzsche did not want you to be followed. He wanted you to become someone impossible to ignore, even if that meant losing all who only loved you in your edited version. Because in the end, the solitude you fear is the price of the freedom you were born to live. You have made it this far. That means something in you survived. Despite the years being shaped to obey, despite the layers of weakness disguised as virtue, despite the cycles of self-sabotage, escape, and silence, something inside you remained lit. A spark, a primitive, untamable presence that never fully bowed. Nietzsche would call this your free spirit. And now the time has come to set it free, not with catchphrases, but with real choices, with reconstruction, with action. The first stone of this reconstruction is simple discipline, but not the kind motivated by fear or self-hate. True discipline is born from respect. Respect for who you could be if you stop betraying yourself. The unshakable is not the strongest physically. It is the one who keeps their path even in storms. It is the one who does not trade their values for immediate pleasure. It is the one who masters the day before the world invades the mind. Start with this. Awaken before the chaos. Claim your mornings. Write, breathe, create, move, serve yourself before serving the world. The unshakable does not beg. It does not demand respect. It emanates it. Through clarity in the voice, firmness in the gaze, presence in the gesture. Nietzsche said clarity is strength, so practice it. Cut ambiguity. Say what you think. Say what you want. Say what you will no longer tolerate, and then be silent. Let your actions support what your voice announced. Reconstruction begins in language. Words shape reality. Use yours with the precision of a surgeon and with the courage of a warrior. The reconstruction of the unshakable demands that you die to old versions. You cannot be new with old habits. You cannot remain untouchable and still seek distraction to escape pain. Nietzsche rejected modern numbness. He wanted the awakened, present, disturbing man. So eliminate the anesthetics that drown you. Social media, addictions, empty conversations. Also eliminate excuses. Stop saying, "It's just a difficult moment." No, it is a call. Discomfort is the bell of rebirth, and you are being summoned. Reconstruction does not demand perfection. It demands repetition. Small daily acts of courage. Getting up even without will. Keeping the promise you made to yourself. Breaking the habit of speaking ill of yourself internally. Replacing paralyzing self-criticism with a posture of training. Like a general forging their internal army. The unshakable is not the one who does not feel. It is the one who feels and still goes on. No drama, no rush, with clarity, with purpose. But remember, reconstruction is not hiding pain. It is using it. Nietzsche believed in the transmutation of suffering. The one who is wounded but does not break becomes dangerous. Because their pain becomes direction. Their scar becomes armor. And their story, a silent fire that guides their steps. So stop running from what destroyed you. Look, feel, learn, and then walk. With every step say, this shaped me but did not define me. This burned me but did not melt me. This broke me, and I rebuilt myself with steel. You do not need to be understood, nor followed. You just need to be real. Every morning, every yes, every no, every breath, you are either reconstructing yourself or erasing yourself. The unshakable is not built in a day, but it is destroyed in a second of surrender. So guard yourself as a king guards his castle. Honor what you have built, protect what you have awakened, and never accept living below what you know you are capable of being. Not out of vanity, but out of responsibility, because now you know. And this knowing is your new foundation, a clarity that can no longer be undone. You saw the truth, felt the call, awakened what the world tried to bury, and this forces you to continue. Nietzsche did not want you to be just another. He wanted you to become impossible to ignore, a being of presence, firmness, lucidity, not domesticated, not desirable, but necessary for yourself, for the time you live in, for the world that needs men like this. Unshakable. Now you understand. Weakness was never you. It was the character they taught you to play. The man you really are does not need approval, excuses, or a manual. He walks alone but never empty. He does not raise his voice because presence itself is command. You do not need permission to start. You need courage not to stop. This reconstruction has no end, but it has a beginning. And this beginning is now. If this crossed through, you subscribe. Not out of habit, but out of decision. This channel is not entertainment. It is war against mediocrity. And if you thought this video was deep, the next will destroy the ground you stand on. But only click if you are ready, because after watching, you will never go back. Click now on one of the videos on the side and start breaking that mirror. You will have to risk the click. So what is your choice?